Welcome to On the Record, Updates and Echoes, a podcast by the Pocahontas Record-Democrat. I'm Erin Summers. We're sponsored this month by Beam Real Estate. Beam's owner, Katie Halligan, joined us this week for the Echoes portion of the podcast. Stick around to hear that segment. So last week started with a day that I thought we might just all blow away, at least in the evening on Monday. It started with Sandy Rutherford taking pictures of the Newell-Fonda track team over at Kingsley Pearson's home meet. And she texted me that they had a lightning delay. She made it to her car just in time for the skies to open and a little bit of hail to come down. I was actually in Newell at the time at a special city council meeting. The weather there was okay at the time, although the skies looked a little bit dramatic. I drove back to Pocahontas to go to the Pocahontas Area Community School Board meeting and went into the meeting. It got started. And then the emergency sirens went off and all of the board members, the teachers, me, whoever was left at the meeting, took shelter in the girls' locker room, which was an interesting experience. And then through all of this, Eric Gertis was out to dinner and went outside, looked at the skies, and rather than driving south towards home, drove towards where he found funnel clouds forming north of Pocahontas. His pictures were pretty cool too. You'll see at least one of those in this week's paper. The National Weather Service, though, says they were funnel clouds, not tornadoes. Still, pretty exciting evening around Pocahontas County. Speaking of the PAC school board members Dustin Thompson and Chris Jansen both resigned at the meeting last week. Both of them said their decisions were not a reflection on the direction the school district is going. They both said they just have a lot going on. A little bit later in the week, Superintendent Robert Boley sent us the official notice to run in this week's paper saying that the school board will appoint replacements for Thompson and Jansen. The whole process typically takes about a month. At a special board budget workshop last week, the Pocahontas City Council made its way through its budget talks in a productive meeting. You can find the city's proposed budget and information on the budget hearing in this week's paper in the legal section. On Tuesday, I headed to the Lorenz Public Library to learn more about Alzheimer's and about the resources available to folks in Iowa who either have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's or have a loved one who's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia. The speaker really did have a lot of great information. You can read the details in this week's papers. What stood out to me are some of the numbers he shared. We know that Iowa is an older state, that it's aging, the average age of the population keeps going up. But the number of healthcare providers, especially those who specifically will work with people with dementia, is staggeringly low. Again, you can see some of those numbers in this week's Sun and in this week's Record Democrat. Newell had a special city council meeting on Monday to meet their new interim ambulance director. The council also set forth some stronger policies to make sure the right reports are being filed at the right time so that ambulance service can get paid for the calls that they're going on. The city of Newell was also picked out of 160 applicants to be one of 10 small cities to receive a roadwork safety package. See a photo of the equipment and read more about what they're getting in this week's BV County Journal. The RD and the Sun have quite a few photos this week. We were at the middle school play and PAC prom, or at least the Grand March, not prom. You can see those pictures and see what the students were up to in both of those papers. It was a very busy sports week in the last week. The Newell-Fonda girls golf team is now 7-0 on the season, and the girls track team took first place in Sac City at a meet there last week. The Newell-Fonda boys track team had some really great performances too, including Jack Olson taking first in the 1600 meters at Kingsley Pearson. The Mustang boys golf team had 3 meets last week. You can read the details in this week's BV Journal. PAC girls qualified 2 events for the Drake Relays that will happen later this week. Haley Hosworth will be in the shot put event Thursday night, and the 4x100 relay will run Saturday morning. Hosworth won the shot put in Van Meter last week. Isabel Shearer was second in the high jump at that meet. Those two had a great meet in Clarion too, with Shearer and Hosworth both taking first place in their respective events. Those weren't all the wins. Pick up this week's RD and Sun for the full recap. In golf, the PAC girls beat Southeast Valley and came in second at their TLC quad meet. In boys track, PAC's Adam Marsh won the discus competition with the toss of 129 feet and finished second in shot put at Gowrie. The Indians also ran at Manson. We have the full story in the Record Democrat. Up next is the Echoes part of the show.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, Welcome to the Echoes portion of the podcast. I'm Erin Summers. With me today are Sandy Rutherford from the Record Democrat and our sponsor, Katie Halligan of Beam Real Estate. Thanks for being here today, Katie and Sandy. You're always here. It's good.
Happy to be here.
Times.
I enjoy being here.
Okay, good. Well, I started out looking at something else, and then I found this. This is how it happens almost every week. And then I thought that I could do something related to this. But there was so much in this one article that we both looked at, or all three of us looked at, that I just had to really focus like that. But to do a quick bit of setup. So this is an article that ran in February 1905 in the Pocahontas Record. In 1904, according to the newspaper, Pocahontas County farmers launched a farm institute. In 1905, the Democrat reported on the institute saying it drew in about 200 people to learn about farming techniques and more. I actually found some really cool stuff just on the reporting of that, and that's what I started. But we're saving that because there was just too much in this article. What really stuck out to me too was the next week. So they had like the news reporting one week, and then the next week they dedicated the entire front page to basically essays. It was two speeches by two women in the county, which I also thought was really unusual. And they just ran the full text of their speeches from this institute. It was either a very slow news week or these were like really, really like, oh, what's the riveting speeches.
It's a lot of words on this page.
It is a lot of words on. There's not a single picture, and in 1905 there were definitely weeks with pictures. They don't break it up. It is just two articles. So today we are talking about the first one, which takes up, I would say, 3/4 of the front page of the newspaper, and it is headlined "How to Keep Boys and Girls on the Farm," written by Miss Vina Hawley of the Wrens. So I'm going to just read a few excerpts. Sandy has some highlighted. But
thank goodness it's just a few excerpts.
I know, it's only this many. I don't know if we'll read them all, but I just kept highlighting because, and the reason this stuck out to me, I'll just say up front, that headline, as soon as I read it, I didn't even read the essay to know that we needed to talk about this, because what do we talk about right now but how to keep people living in Pocahontas County?
Yes.
So she starts out with a lot of words, and frankly, it was like she was getting paid by the word, or she needed to fill some time, because I think there's a lot of filler in here. But if you go down, I don't know, it's kind of the end of the first paragraph. I believe they felt the tendency of our young people to leave the farm was really worth a thoughtful consideration in a meeting of this kind, for it is a discouraging fact that our young men and women are seeking careers in the cities, and we can say with the prophet of old, "Behold, our house is left unto us desolate." So things are bad. It is desolate. We're like invoking prophets, guys.
I thought it was interesting. She did pull a couple biblical references in. So both happen to be from Matthew, but one is about the parable of the sower, which is later, and then one with this one talking about how your house is desolate. Obviously different contexts, but it's interesting how she pulls that into her speech.
At the end, she talks about Sodom. Mm-hmm. So there's a third one. Like it says a lot about how she felt about the cities. And what's funny to me is I think about Pocahontas in 1905 or Lorenz in 1905. They were not big. They were not the big city.
Right.
So I guess this was something I was going to say later. Sandy and I were talking about this a little bit. At first, when I read that headline, I was thinking in 2026 terms, where kids leave here and go to Pocahontas or go to Des Moines. She's literally writing about people leaving the farm and moving into town in Lorenz. Like that really surprised me, because I was thinking on such a bigger scale, and then I realized she's just literally talking about you moving 5 miles, and that was desolation.
It's all relative though, right?
Yeah.
So like how far would you travel to do X, Y, or Z in 1905 versus how far you're willing to travel now. So like to take a day trip to Des Moines is nothing, but that would have been a whole big to do.
Yeah. And you could get everything in town.
Yes.
We had stores, and we had all the professions, and anybody could come hang out a shingle in any of the professions and do pretty well, because the population couldn't go to Des Moines or even Fort Dodge. So so I think that is good context to give people up front. We are not talking about people moving to Des Moines. We're talking about kids leaving the farm and going to Lorenz. So she says, "I am inclined to believe that what is true in northwestern Iowa will be found to be largely true throughout our great Middle West." This is a problem everybody had. This is not just Iowa, and that is true today also. Every state in the middle of the country is going, how do we keep our towns open? How do we keep our communities going? And obviously this is not a new problem. It is an old and familiar saying, God made the country, man made the town. I had never heard that before.
Yeah, I'd never heard that before.
Not so familiar.
Not so familiar 120 years later. We have to face the fact, disagreeable as it may be, that our boys and girls are trying to reach the place where man and not God is preeminent, and are leaving behind them God's country, where the lilies outrival kings in their purple and gold, where even the sparrows are cared for, and where in ever recurring seasons we see the fulfillment of the parable, behold, a sower went forth to sow. Again, just like, how terrible are these cities? It's Lorenz in 1905. I don't think it's like a pit of abomination. I don't know. What has infatuated the sons and daughters of the soil that they should wish to cast aside all the home ties and throw themselves into the unmerciful scramble for bread that characterizes modern city life? Can we point to say one thing and say, herein lies the difficulty? What remedies have we ready to apply when we shall have found the cause of the trouble? Do we know how to apply these remedies when they are given to us? How many surveys have we filled out about quality of life in rural communities?
Yeah.
History repeats itself.
Yeah.
All the time. All the time.
In general, both boys and girls leave the farm for the same reasons. There is no place there for a loafer, and doubtless occasionally there is one who leaves simply because he is lazy. I gotta say, I don't hear that from people. That is not something we talk about. Oh, people are leaving rural Iowa because they're too lazy to live there. That was a new one to me.
Yeah. But I mean, I get it. It was a lot of hard work back then.
Yeah, absolutely. And
but
way different from
hilarious that they were calling people lazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of judgment and shade.
Snarky and judgy.
Let's see. This we're gonna kind of skip ahead. So the lazy boy. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I
would say he goes into town where his talents will be more appreciated and ekes out a bare living, supported chiefly by self-conceit. As though farming is not also. I mean, I know we're past subsistence farming in 1905, but that was hard. You're doing everything manually. There's no tractor. There's no. I mean, everything is done by hand.
And keep your animals alive and healthy, and you're at the mercy of a lot of things that we don't necessarily have to contend with now.
Have you ever seen the old corn shellers?
Oh,
yeah. Calhoun County Museum has one, and they used to do a history day, and I got to watch little kids try to grind it, and there were a lot of adults going, "Don't put your fingers here."
Yeah.
Okay. So the boys move because they're lazy. The girl shirks from doing the work that her mother has done. She would much prefer to live in town, where in her unsophisticated mind, everyone is dressed to their best and is having an easy time. How often we hear some mother remark, "I don't wish my daughter to marry a farmer. The work is too hard. She couldn't do it."
It just feels like a parental problem. Like, you didn't train your child to be able to do this work. That sounds like it's on you.
or you're not telling them why this is a great job to have. Like, you're not selling, and she does get into that you're not selling the farm life enough to people.
We always say that the farm wives live the longest because they're out there doing the work, so they're staying active longer. And I'm like, well, I'm not seeing that benefit in this article.
No, absolutely not. And then, kids just want to be entertained. It is the right of the young to enjoy a social hour. Too often is it the case that there is absolutely no effort put forth along this line in our country districts. The boys and girls demand it. It does not come to them, and they go to seek it. Where? In the city, of course, which is all things to all men, instead of staying at home and making a society life for themselves, in the country. There are some girls, I am sorry to say, who would resort to almost any extremity to keep their hands white, their hair curled, and their hats set at the proper angle. These long for city life, where they may do work indoors that requires no uncleanliness of the person, and where they may I actually don't know what the rest of this means, and where they may ape the 400 in walk and dress. But we don't have enough country dances. I don't know, where were they having that entertainment? Where do you have that entertainment in Iowa in February in 1905 if you're out in the country? At least in the town you could have an opera house or a theater.
Yeah. Or they'd have dances in whatever open space. Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. As one girl, and I really like this because this is an actual quote from somebody at the time talking. It's not this lady speculating. As one girl remarked to an acquaintance of mine, I just hate to come home. Everything is so weedy and at loose ends in the country. You can't keep your dress clean, and after you ride to town in the wind, your hair is hanging in strings over your collar, and your hat is blown off over one ear.
How frustrating.
I mean, right? Like, can you not keep a hairbrush with you? Like,
I mean, their purses were small. I mean,
that's true.
They didn't carry big bags, I don't think.
Stash it in the wagon. Like, it's no different than leaving it in the car. I brought a hairbrush to work today. Boys are usually not quite so frank upon these subjects, but I venture to suggest that there might be some of the few masculine sex who would prefer patent leather shoes and tall silk hats to the rough old plow boots and wide brimmed sunshades with a quarter section of land to them. I mean, even dudes,
pretty boys.
Status. Yeah, the pretty boys. Let's see. We're also going to blame the schools. Many times, the desire for a higher education than that offered by the district school induces the boys and girls to leave home. So we have to go to high school because country school did not have high school. That was taking you into town, and just in college, and and then you get educated for a different profession. You can't be a lawyer and live in the country in 1905. I mean, some people probably did, but I'm going to skip some of my stuff that I've highlighted because there's just too much.
But I do like that she has, girls become teachers, blah, blah, blah. But up at the top here, it was the boys frequently enter the profession and, okay, my eyes are not working.
Thus spoiling.
They're third-rate doctors and lawyers.
There we go. And thus spoiling a good farm boy. That's the other line. Like, he got, third rate. Yeah.
Like third rate.
Yep.
They're not actually doing good. They're just.
I think it's so ironic, only because in what little research I did about who wrote the article, this Vina Hawley, she was a school teacher. So very, very late 1800s, 1894, 1897, somewhere in there. She was a school teacher in the county. So I find it kind of ironic that she's like, oh, and then they just want to go on and get more schooling, and that's what pulls them away from us.
Yeah, so. That is funny. I'm glad that you looked her up because I did not, and I really wanted to, but I got distracted by a few other things that I will talk about when we get to the end. I mean, she goes on and talks about, we're educating kids and then they feel like they're too good for farm life. And then there's that line that I think you had noticed: the city consumes everything the country produces and is consistently demanding of its best brain and muscle. And that's no different than now. How do we talk about rural communities versus cities, rural states versus urban states? Oh man, those city people, they want our food, we grow the food, and it's just all about consuming our resources. Right. That is a never-ending debate. This next quote, and I meant to look up who Reverend George McNutt was, but I didn't. But he makes this statement, which doubtless many of you remember: out of the 35 clerks to back in one bank on Fifth Avenue, New York City, 33 were boys from the farm. Like, it's not just Iowa. It's not 2026. I do wonder sometimes, do you think about the fact that we all have ancestors who were like, forget the homeland, I'm heading west. Yeah. And then they land and they pioneer. And when you've conquered it, we all inherently have something in us that says, let's get out of here. I need to go somewhere new.
I mean, yeah.
I don't know. That I've always kind of wondered about that too.
How it all started, right?
Right. That's how we got here.
All right. Whose fault is it? Okay, now we're back to the parents. Whose fault is it if the boy or girl is brought up to believe himself or herself too good to do the work the father and mother have always done? Who is to blame if they are continually hunting for easy employment at high wages when they have always been told they should have an easier life than their mother and father had? I mean, do we not? Like, I definitely remember hearing that, as a kid. I want you to my parents didn't go to college. I want you to go to college. I don't want you to have to work in a factory. I don't want you to have a hard job. Now I have the easy job, and I think, what do I want my kids to do? I want them to have an easy job that pays their bills.
Right, Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you want for your kids. You want them to do better and to be better.
And I guess she's making the argument, does that make them lazy?
Does it make them lazy, or does it make you a good parent who parented a better life for your kids? Right?
Yeah.
And then she kind of goes on to sort of question, you know, what do we do about it? Is it impossible for a social life to be developed in the country? Surely in these modern times of telephone, rural mail delivery, and traction lines, young people can arrange and carry out the social functions of a community as satisfactorily on the farm as in town.
I don't know what she would think about the world today.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And
when it was rural mail and essentially party lines, probably.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well,
party lines.
what about today? You know?
Yeah. And we still talk about people being lonely today.
Yeah.
We feel less connected than people did when the three of us were kids.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I told my boys the other day about how when I was a kid, and of course we lived closer to my grandparents, but my dad would just stop at people's houses, knock on the door and see if they were home. And they'd invite you in and you'd hang out for an hour.
Yeah. When I was growing up, we lived, so it was a half mile to Christopher's house. And so I would bike that far and pick her up, and we would bike down the mile to the creek where we would meet Jamie Pearson from the other side, who came a mile, and we just played.
Yeah.
Or we would bike the 5 miles to Palmer.
Which is really not that far on a bike.
Yeah, you just, made it work and calling people up and
Yeah.
biking everywhere.
Yeah. So again, talking about solutions, study not simply how to amuse them, but how to create in them a wholesome liking for innocent fun and jolly times. Don't grow, she's telling parents how to raise up their kids. Don't grow too old for a hearty laugh. It will add years to your life to be a boy or girl again occasionally.
I love that part.
I did too.
Don't forget to laugh, no matter how old you are.
Can we afford to shut our eyes to the best thing and wonder why these children do not like home? I mean, again, if parents are not talking highly of like, this is hard and I don't enjoy it, I mean, it's no wonder kids moved into town.
Right.
Let's see. I think the other thing, I'm going to kind of skip ahead again.
Discover the beauty in where you live and talk about it.
Yes. Which I have definitely written about for the newspaper more than once in a column, just reminding people, like, you're here. Like, it does you no good to be miserable where you are. And there's plenty of things to enjoy. There's plenty of entertainment. I run out of time to do the things in the summer that our small towns offer us. Let's see. Now we're going to snark on people for, wanting to be able to afford things. Say what we will, we must admit the truth that our only standard of success in life in these latter days has been a financial standard. And the motto we continually keep up before our eyes is, get money. It matters little how you get it, but get it at any cost. With these things supported by our schools, winked at by our churches, and discussed by every newspaper, it is not at all surprising that some of our farmer boys and girls think honest labor is beneath their dignity and long for city life, where they imagine they can get a good salary, keep their hands clean, wear good clothes, and do little work. I really don't think people were going off to the city and not working. It's just you weren't up doing animal chores.
It wasn't manual.
It wasn't manual.
Yeah.
I mean, working conditions were not cool in 1905.
Oh,
right?
No.
When the man of learning shall take his poorer and less fortunate brother by the hand, when clean work shall take its rightful place in our civilization, when brain and muscle shall each recognize the other's honored sphere, when strength, simplicity, and sincerity shall govern our hearts and house, then we can hope that our boys and girls will see the beauty of the country life, its homely dignity and honorable independence, and shall deem it no disgrace or sacrifice to be a tiller of the soil, for God wintereth and giveth the increase. It's a pretty strong ending.
That Midwestern work ethic, being like, hey, take it with you and be proud of it.
The rabbit hole that I went down was trying to figure out family size. If not in Pocahontas County, but in Iowa, because I really had this vision of like giant families. Yeah. And there were a lot of census numbers and they talked about birth rates. It was really, really hard to pin down how many kids were actually in a family. But I did find an academic paper from about 1990 that looked at one county in Iowa and one county in Nebraska. And they said the average household like children per household was between 3 and 4. So I don't know.
That seems small.
It seems incredibly small. And I don't know if that was averaged over all the households, and so you had ones where there were no children because they would all grown up.
Sure.
So but I was really expecting to find 6 or 7 or 10 kids because I know how many farm families had that many. But I couldn't find anything more specific. I also started that about an hour and a half ago, so I didn't have a lot of time.
I definitely would have just, guessing, I would have put it in that 6 to 8 range.
Me too.
And there's a few under, right? But then there's just as many over.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally.
It actually, and this is just a total tangent, but it went on to talk about how they were speculating that the farm women must have been using some form of birth control much more frequently than we would have imagined. And
I wonder how many miscarriages they would have had with all the hard labor they're doing.
Yeah, and there
like,
was. They said that in the census in like about 1900, they started asking how many surviving children you had and how many. How many basically how many miscarriages. So yeah. So but I didn't find any of that. I think I would have really had to do a deeper dive. But honestly, if that holds true, that's way fewer kids. The other thing that I looked at, so then I just looked at Pocahontas County's population in general. The county's population, peaked when everybody's did with baby boom. So 1940s, 1950s, the county hit about 16,000 people. And I didn't look or find an average number of kids, but when I think of the 40s and 50s, I think again 3, 4, 5 kids in a family.
Right.
And now we have come down pretty substantially. So I just thought that was really interesting. The other thing is, it's 1905, like we talked about, manual labor. By the 20s, we're getting tractors. I mean, kids started leaving the farm in larger numbers. You didn't need them on the farm anymore.
Right.
So, I mean, I thought that was just, it was all really interesting that in 1905, we're talking about people moving to the city. In 2026, we're talking about people just leaving the county. And even though it's different, it's really, really the same.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about twice the number of people in the county.
I know.
That's what there are now.
Yeah.
But like there was a part in the article about like making your house more beautiful to try to keep the kids to stay.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that. And I said, it'd be kind of like trying to add trails and things to the county. And,
absolutely.
To draw people in and look at the beautiful things we have.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. So, I just think it's interesting because the stuff hasn't stopped. My last question, you guys have a guess at, and I know there's no right or wrong answer, but how many of your high school classmates are still here? Would you say most of them have left the county?
Yeah, most of them aren't in the county. I think there's maybe a third of them within the surrounding counties.
Okay.
I know there's a few in Fort Dodge, Manson, Pomeroy.
Yeah.
Nick Lenz was in my class.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say about 10 to 20% I can think of like right out
there.
the gate without working too hard.
A third of my class is only like maybe 10 people.
Right.
So.
And that's about how many.
Yeah.
So yeah, small percentage.
Yeah.
All right.
And for some of us, we never imagined being back here, but also then again, when we're here, I wouldn't imagine it any other way.
Yeah.
I think the three of us too represent some really, so you grew up here, left, came back. You grew up here, you stayed.
Yes.
I grew up somewhere else small and moved to another small rural area.
Yep.
I mean, I think we're all examples of like what a rural area can do if you provide some opportunities and a good quality of life.
Yep.
Yeah.
I always tell my clients, small towns are what you make of it.
Yes.
So you're kind of responsible for your own fun. So whether there's things to do that somebody else is volunteering their time and effort to put on, or if it's something that you're like, I need to go seek it out because it's important to me, small towns are really what you make of it.
Absolutely.
That's very true.
All right. Well, thank you again for sponsoring us, Katie. And thanks everybody for listening, and we will talk with you next week.